the European Astronaut Center. I'm Captain Samantha Cristoforetti. I'm an officer and a pilot in the Italian Air Force and an astronaut with the European Space Agency. First of all, I would like to extend my gratitude for having been invited to take part in this time today. And in particular, it's a privilege and an honor to share this event with the fellow officers of the Italian Armed Forces who are present there and have distinguished themselves in many years of service to our country. I'm humbled by their dedication and their amazing achievements. And I'm deeply sorry that I cannot be there physically today, but unfortunately the exceptional weather conditions yesterday prevented me from traveling to New York. Actually, I remember a similar situation just 2 years ago. It was early 2015, and exceptional weather conditions disrupted a STEM event I was supposed to take part in. At that time, our participation was actually supposed to be a lot more remote than it is today, because at that time I was actually in space on the International Space Station serving as a crew member for a 6-month flight opportunity of the Italian Space Agency, deriving from a long-standing distinguished tradition of the Italian aerospace industry, which is exemplified, for example, by the fact that a great majority of the habitable, pressurized volume of the International Space Station was actually built in Italy. On station for over 6 months, I performed a number of scientific experiments in all the fields which are relevant to microgravity research, from human physiology and life sciences in general to physical sciences like combustion, fluid mechanics, material science. I had a chance to perform experimental protocols for a great number of research teams throughout the world, but especially for the European and Italian research community. I also performed daily activities related to maintenance and repair of the space station systems, logistics, cargo ops, support of visiting vehicle operations. So, for example, I had the privilege of being in controls of the robotic arm of the station to capture a Dragon resupply cargo vehicle. And on the way to and back from station, I served as a first flight engineer, which is sort of a backup of the commander in that I was trained to fulfill, if necessary, exactly the same roles. Flying to space, for me, was the fulfillment of a lifelong dream, something I had aspired to since I was a child. I grew up in a small village in the Italian Alps. I was an adventurous child. I was stubborn and opinionated and very curious about everything, and I loved science fiction. And as I grew up, I developed an early interest in science and technology. I was very curious to find out how everything works. I also started to become interested in flying, especially military flying. However, at the time I graduated from high school, females were not allowed to serve in the Italian Armed Forces. It was in the mid-90s. The topic was occasionally discussed in the media, but the law that introduced female voluntary military service did not come until years later. At that point, I had almost completed a 5-year curriculum in aerospace engineering at the University of Munich, and I was already past the war age limit. However, the law did include 2 aspects which opened up numerous possibilities for me. On the one hand, the normal age limit was increased by 3 years for a transition period of 2 years, which allowed me to apply. And on the other hand, it was particularly interesting for me to apply because the female military service was introduced without any limitation on the roles that women could take up in the armed forces, so that I could actually aspire to become a combat pilot. Now, as I often say, as an astronaut, it's not very hard to be an astronaut, but it's quite hard to become one, because the competition, of course, is very tough. For Europeans like me, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, because usually over 10 years pass between a selection and the next one. In 2009, when I was lucky enough to join Corps, qualified applicants were over 8,000 for 6 positions. And I do believe that my experience as an officer and a combat pilot, although quite short, did improve my qualifications and helped me become a successful candidate. I also now have the experience of training and flying a long-duration mission on the International Space Station. And I believe that the character and professional traits that I developed while or during my time in the military certainly helped me a lot. And I'm talking about discipline, teamwork, humility, resilience, appreciation of my limits, attention to detail, followership, and leadership. The next speakers are shining examples of all those characteristics, and so I'm very glad to leave the floor to them, and I thank you for your kind attention.